Welcome back. This week we're going to go back and revisit the Murdich Minnow. This was a fly designed by Bill Murdich out in the Midwest, mainly for smallmouth. But this thing works on all species, you know, trout, probably even some pike, stripers, largemouth, you name it. And you scale it down enough, it would be a killer panfish pattern as well. All around, just a really good fly. So we're going to go ahead and start with this one. It's a really simple pattern to tie, a great one to get new folks tying on, a good pattern to teach folks with. It's a 4-part fly, so we're going to go ahead and get into this 5 if you count the hook. But we're going to get that in the vise. And I'm going to start with just a thread base. This is an MFC 7050 size 1. You can scale these up or down whichever direction you want. I prefer the 3X long hooks. If you want to go with the down eye 4X, that would be fine too. But when I'm tying these, I prefer them in the 3X long ring eye hook. So I'm just going to take my thread all the way to the back, right to where my barb starts its ascent. Move forward just a couple of steps, and we're going to do this one in a little brown trout color today. You can do it in, well, all you really need is the white Estaz and then a marker, and you can color this in any fashion that you want. You can go as basic or complex as you would like on the colors. Get that out of the way. This right here, I'm not going to go real heavy on the flash on the tail for this one. I have, you can see right there, probably 20 to 30 strands, and this is just a multicolor. There's some clear, there's some yellows, there's some reds, orange, may even be a purple in there, I'm not really sure. But I'm going to measure this out about 1 1/4 to 1.5 times the length of my hook, and I'm just going to set this right on the top and spin that around, just get that nice and secure. Now I'm going to take a look at that and see if that's the amount of flash that I want or not. I mean, it looks pretty decent. If I would double this over, it would give me a little bit heavier of a tail section, so that's what I'm going to do for this one. I'm just going to take a little bit extra. I'm going to make a little bit thicker of a tail, a little bit more flash on this particular pattern. So then I'm just going to take and trim that off. You can see the thickness that we have on that tail. There's just that little bump right here, which we're going to take care of that in a second with some EP fibers. So what this is going to do is it's going to form like a little taper to your tail. And I'm just going to take a chunk of this here. That looks pretty good. And then I just want to measure this out. See, that's going to be a little on the thick side. So I'm probably going to take 1/4 of that out. Just set that off to the side. And then I'm going to take these EP fibers and I'm going to measure these out about 1/4 of the way back my tail. So you can see that right there for the distance that we're using. That's going to be about 1/4. And then what I'm going to do is just take this. First off, I'm just going to cut that section right there. I'm going to use that other side. And then I just want to take and cut that at a slight angle. This is going to help with that taper that I was talking about, or with that little, this is going to help transition from that bump that we had there. So I'm just going to get those fibers tied into place, and like I said, they're going about 1/4 of the way back the tail. Now that one probably got away from me a little bit. It's probably That one's probably closer to half. I actually want to redo that one. I don't want it going back quite that far. Not quite that far. I want it, like I said, right at about a quarter, between a quarter and a half. That one went just a little too far for me. So we'll measure that back out again. That looks good right there. And then I'll just take this right on that side. And just clean that up. That looks a lot better right there to me. So then what I'm going to do with this is just take and cut that at an angle. If you want to, you could leave that on and run it forward. It's up to you. I'm just going to cut that at an angle, and I'll explain why I cut that when I tie in my body material. So now we have that setting in place. Everything's how we want it. We're just going to duplicate that on the opposite side. We're going to take this one that we cut off earlier. And before I do that, I saw something the last time I looked in the monitor that I wanted to fix, get you guys a little bit better of a view in the back there. Let me just take and turn that just slightly. That looks a lot better to me. A lot better. Alright, so again, I'm just going to take and measure this out. Same distance as I have on the one on my side. Girls, hey, cut it out. Getting rowdy. You're getting rowdy. And the joys of having 3 labs in the house. Never a moment of, well, that's a lie. They're good girls. They're just rambunctious every once in a while. They're good girls. Alright, so there we go. We've got our 2 sides tied on here. Everything's how we want it. Everything's looking pretty clean. We're going to clean this up a lot more as we go forward. I'm just going to take this, ease that transition once again, and as you'll see, that transition or that slope coming from the EP fibers and the flash that we have tied in is right around our halfway point, and that's going to be by design for this body. And like I was saying, I was going to explain that when I get into actually tying the body. So here we're going to use, let me just wrap that off the card, there's not a whole lot left. I'm just going to use a medium Estaz. This is a clear, and I'm just peeling this back to where I'm just tying in the cotton. We're going to get this Estaz in. And I'm going to advance that all the way to the front. Alright, so now, keeping in mind where your halfway point is right here, we're just going to make one wrap right in front of the next. There we go. Everything's starting to come into shape here. Now you can barely see, and I don't know if the camera will pick this up or not, it probably won't, but you can barely see that little transition on that body. And what we're going to do is we're just making this go all the way to the front. Every 4th or 5th wrap, I'm going to just anchor that in place, getting up to the front, and then I'm going to work back over top of this to fill that body out just a little bit more and completely ease that transition that we had on the body. I'm about to my halfway point now, and then I'm just going to go back over top of that one more time. That's just going to thicken that body out a little bit, and you'll see when I get my hands and everything out of the way here, we have a nice little taper, or a nice taper on this pattern. Let me get my fingers out of the way here. There we go. You can see there's just a real slight taper. As this gets wet, it's going to slick down, and then you're going to have a nice little transition all the way up to the front. It has a nice little minnow profile. It really does. And then that is going to be the end of the actual tying portion on this. I'm just going to move some of these fibers out of the way, get excuse me, get as many out of the way as possible. And just a quick whip finish on the front. 2, 3, 4. Everything's pretty clean. And then I'm going to bring out my cautery tool here. It's going to be a lot quicker to just burn these fibers than it will be to try and cut them. Get those out of our way. And then you can go one of two ways on this when you're setting your eyes. You can either go with the cautery tool, or in this case with the Estaz, I like to just cut a little bit out with the scissors. I'm going to go with some living eyes here. These are earth colored from Fish Skull. The wind color is my favorite for the brown trout. But I had these ones readily available, so that's what I'm going with. So all I'm doing here is I'm just clearing out a little path for the eyes on this pattern. Same thing on the opposite side. You can really skip this step if you want. These Estaz fibers are pliable enough to where they're really not going to stand in your way for getting good contact on with your eyes, but it does help just a little bit. Let me get rid of that. Now I just want to put a drop of glue on, and these are 7mm eyes, by the way. I think I forgot to mention that. So I'm just going to get a little dab of glue on each side there. Get my scissors back. And take and just set this eye on. There's one. Same on the opposite side. Set my eye on. I'm going to press it with my scissors. Right up against the body. And then I'm just going to look on this side, make sure that my eyes are even, and then once they are, I'm just going to press on those just slightly, make sure I don't have a lot of glue, or any glue, coming out, getting on my hand, and then sticking to the eyes. There you can see we've got some nice coverage on these eyes. If you want, you can throw on some UV resin and hit it with a torch. I typically don't with this super glue, but this gel is usually on there pretty good. So I don't really find it necessary to hit that with some extra UV. It just adds another step. If the eyes fall off, I just glue a new set on. So now I'm going to take and color this one up. I'm just going to take some yellow here. I'm going to get sort of a lateral line going. Get some yellow on these EP fibers. There you can see that. Just get a little bit of yellow. I'm even working this into the top a little bit. I'm going to leave one little stripe on the bottom. When I flip that over, you'll see there's a little bit of white on the bottom section. Just working this in here. Same thing, I'm going to work this into the EP fibers on the back. Just getting my yellow in there, getting everything colored up how I want it. And then I'm going to transition over to a brown. Throw throw some color on this. And I'm just going to fade into that yellow that I have on the lateral side, or on the lateral portion of the fly. There we go. Now I want to color up this top portion here, and there's not really a good way to do this with the camera. Maybe that works, but I feel like I'm trying to pedal a bicycle backwards doing this. A little bit more on this top portion, and there you have it. There is the completed Murdich Minnow in the brown trout color. If you want to and you want to get fancy, you can take and grab a black marker, gray, whatever it is. If you want to add a little bit of extra jazz to it, you can just go through here and throw a couple of black marks on here and there. I do not see it entirely necessary. That's up to you, however you want to color up your fly. But we'll just add a couple in there. Allow me to ramble on about this fly for another couple of seconds. There we go. Can't notice a damn thing that I even put them on there outside on the EP fibers, but if it makes you feel better doing it, have at it. Let me see here. We got all the color combinations. Like I said, I mean, it's entirely up to you. Mainly, it started out as a smallmouth, so I mean, you could do this in some perch colors. You could do, you know, sunfish, whatever it may be, whatever your juvenile food source is in your water system. You can just tailor them to that in that color. I've actually done exceptionally well on this fly in just a straight white. It's really a good pattern, and its thing dances in the water so well. There's no weight to it whatsoever. Using the sinking line, it's going to respond to all the varying currents and everything, and it skirts through the water like a minnow. If you're in you know, in a river or a stream or something like that, you know. But still water ponds, all that stuff, you're going to have to twitch and move it side to side a little bit more to get the desired action out of it, but you're still going to have a phenomenal fly that's going to catch a lot of fish for you. But like I was saying, that's Bill Murdich's Murdich Minnow. If you guys have questions or comments, leave them with me and I'll get back to you. But thanks as always for watching, and we'll catch you next week.